Okay. Hello, we are live. I now need to double check that I've got the audio working first before we go any further. Can you guys all just give me a little hello to make sure that it's all working?
Hello.
All good.
Hello. Hello.
Bear with me. Thomas, thank you very much for following us and appreciate you lurking. Just let us know if you've got any questions for us at all. I think I might put us up to what, 22? Let me just fix the output for the audio and then we will hit the record and get started. Okay, go and have a little chat again, guys. Just another little hello so I can double check it.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Perfect. Sarah's jumped in the chat saying sexy peeps. I wonder if she's talking to probably Sean. Okie dokie, like, let me just fix this a little bit and then we will be good to go. Okay, so and we'll be start recording in 5, 4, 3, 2. Good evening, how are you? This is the 5 Morons Reviewing Movies. Today we are going to be reviewing the movies of Room and Fear and Loathing. So what we're going to do is just take you through our understanding, our highly uneducated view on these two movies that we have watched, and we will discuss at length. What we're going to do is go round our room, excuse the pun, and give a little overview, and anyone is free to jump in with their own bills or conversations as we go. So we're going to start off with the person that selected the movies for this week. That would be Hunter, who's looking fresh in his lovely new camera. Hunter, take us away.
Right, so as it was my week selecting movies, I was trying to find Oscar winners from this year, but because not all were accessible to basically Netflix or Amazon, I scrolled through the ones that were, and that's how I went on Room, because I know we had selected the Brie Larson film a few weeks ago where she was the caregiver within the foster home, and I felt, just going by the synopsis, that this was a developed story from that without realising that she'd won the Oscar for this when I selected it. So that was how I went for Room for this week for my unseen film. So after first initial thoughts watching the film, where I was, for the basically part-time role I felt she brought to the movie, I felt everything was more on the son rather than Brie Larson for this role. I mean, for the suicide attempt and whatever else, I thought she delivered a great role, but I thought this film more centred on the son rather than her as a role, which kind of took away from me. I can't compare it to the other 4 or 5 films that were up against her for the Academy Award, but to me, I mean, they've got to have been. You wouldn't have there been too much more or basic actress and attempt to overtake her for what her input into this film in general.
Definitely. The wee boy was a star for me. Like that was what I felt all the way through it. One of my thoughts at the start was, I don't know what you guys thought, but see, the first half of it and the second half of it felt like 2 completely different films to me.
I agree.
I felt like they should have done an extra 45 minutes of him stuck in the room and then make a big dramatic exit and a sort of way to get away. Or you spend a lot more time concentrating on how they adjusted after it. But it was just kind of half and half. I wanted maybe more of them being stuck in there. It was all kind of rushed a wee bit for me.
It didn't go into the depth for either side, really. It was kind of a bit either it should have been longer at the start or the finish. It was kind of just, it went a bit too fast paced, I thought.
There was at one point, so they'd escaped and all that, and it'd be about half an hour later. I was thinking, how the fuck much longer is this going to go? Like, I didn't know what else there was to tell us about what was going on.
I was kind of the same. Like, I remember watching it, and that bit where she's coming up with the two plans, like, oh, this is the first plan that was quite going to work. We'll go for plan 2. And I remember checking my phone. I was like, we're only like 55 minutes into the film. I know how long it's going to last. I've googled how long it's going to last. Preparing myself for staying up for 2-3 hours, whatever else. Then I'm like, then it was the anticlimax, whatever else. But I felt in that second hour, the wee boy developed more as a character, a lot more than what Brie Larson did.
Aye, I think it would be a cool movie.
Shell, he built pals, he built relationships, and she still kept, which I suppose, I mean, I don't want to say anything otherwise, but none of us could maybe sympathise to what she's went through. She's been abused and locked in a room/shed for 4 or 5 years before she conceived, never mind gave birth. That what she never maybe adjusted to the outside world, that she obviously gave a diluted version to her son in that room, that obviously then she got the media interview, tipped her over the edge, that she adjusted more, which is probably why it adjusted more on the second half, was more about the Wayne. But I did feel that even the way he got out the van and jumped out, and the old Nick, or whatever his name was, tried to catch him, and he almost got him, but then he got away. That would have been a great ending. Never mind.
Aye, that's what I'm saying. It felt too early for me. Like it was quite. Like, see, the first maybe 20-25 minutes, you didn't really know that she was being held prisoner. Like, they kept it quite a mystery for the first wee while. Because I read nothing about it, so I didn't know anything about the plot. So I thought at first it might have been some sort of post-apocalypse type situation that was going on. Know that she was, like, held prisoner. But then there's a point where she just, like, has a breakdown about half an hour, 45 minutes in. And then she just tells the whole backstory in the space of, like, 2.5 minutes of screaming. And that's it. Like, you didn't really get much. It was quite jarring.
You see the bit where once they're out and they're sitting back in the house, and she's going through her old photo albums, and she's got the 3 lassies she's on the track team with, and she gives her their names, like, oh, they've all lived, like, hanging lives, and I've had to suffer through this. That's like the main crux of the film, and I've gave it like 2.5 minutes.
Exactly. You didn't get to know anything.
She's went through, like, obviously a hugely traumatic ordeal that her life has been thrown into a disarray for it. And then, but I get what you're saying in terms of the movies in 2 parts, because they could have padded out a lot more about old Nick and what was, like, his background and why did it come to this and what was the plan and how did he prep it. Like, how did they go through all that process? Have a longer term version of this, and you're potentially looking at something that could have had a second movie. That could have had.
That was my thought.
It could have had an aftermath. So that if you've got the aftermath of spend more time about this little boy who knew nothing about the outside world, going into school and developing friendships and relationships, and then obviously having Brie Larson's character who is also having to then readjust, because you have obviously the understanding of Stockholm syndrome, where you then, that becomes you and that becomes your life and that's what you want. How does she then come out of that and move on? And there was a lot of opportunity for it, but for me, I thought the acting was unbelievable. Like, Brie Larson is fantastic in it. The wee boy is fantastic in it as well. And it's one of the things with, I think it takes a certain actress to play this role, because when it's Brie Larson, you actually believe properly that she's been in that room and she's experienced that, and she really acts it incredibly well.
I think she's excellent. I think the wee boy's excellent as well. My issues are more to do with the plot and the script than the acting. I think it's great. I just think it would carry on.
I was just going to say that, like, even for instance, when they found that old Nick and it just came up in the news and was like, he's been arrested. That was like the last you heard about it. It was like they could have.
I just turned up at his house, took over his shed, and that's it.
So I was expecting there was going to be a bit of, like, how obviously he's going to get sent down. Whether they would have to, like, they saw wee bits of taking statements from them both, but it wasn't any in depth for that. And then what was the other bit? It was when they went back, how how they found Brie Larson. It seemed to just like, they found the kid and then they just drove to the room. It's like, but where the room was.
I know that down as well.
I think that was maybe David. As soon as the son escaped, the boy knew, or old Nick knew, his time was up. No matter what that boy said, he knew he was getting caught. So he's maybe tried to escape the state or escape the country. And that was why
I think what Burnsy's saying is, see when the wee boy was in the back of the police car and he's no talking and all that, and then she eventually gets some like tiny bits of information out of him, and suddenly she's like, "Oh, get the satellite images out and look for the hut in the back." I mean, it was just too easy. Like,
and from a little boy that knows nothing about the outside world to describe.
But she's managed to Google Map his stop signs from that house to where he was found in the space of 5 minutes.
What a bunch of cynics. Sean, I'm going to bring you in at this point as well. What's your thoughts on it, mate?
I was just, I think I got put on hold there. I don't know what I've done. I must have pressed the wrong button. But I was just saying there about when Burnsy said about it was just turned up in the news that they'd obviously arrested him. Like, if you like, that can be easily missed. Like, I had to rewind it at one point, even though I'd already seen it, because I must have looked away like for 30 seconds on my phone or something, and I'd missed that bit. And it's the same with them going to get her as well. There's no enough made of it for me. It's just like I like the film. And even when I watched it the other day, I was surprised again how quickly it was that the wee boy escaped when he was in the back of the truck. I always felt that like that was like a good 80% of the film was them building up to the escape, and then the last 20% was just them obviously out in the real world after it and all that. But I do think it could have been a bit shorter, and they could have made more. I would have liked if they'd made more of them trying to get out rather than kind of spending. Yeah, because the majority of the film was them in the outside world.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. It's like it's built up as like this Joseph Fitzel story, where his daughter was there for like 18 years, giving birth to how many Waynes and whatever else, and she was in there from birth till basically being a mother. That I felt that for all the time Brie Larson was in there raised in this way, and I mean he did have a good understanding. I mean, she didn't neglect his education growing up, but I felt that Willem Dafoe's role, he done more in his 5 minutes on screen with what he done, and the role he portrayed, he delivered more to the film than what she did.
Willem Dafoe's not in this, is he?
He was that.
Oh, that's not Willem Dafoe.
I thought that was.
He looks like Willem Dafoe.
It looks a bit like Willem Dafoe, but it's not
That's
Willem
what
Dafoe.
I'm confused. Well, whoever the dad I thought delivered more is. I was convinced that was Willem Dafoe. Sitting watching that last night.
So actually, doing the opposite of that, I thought his little speech about not being able to look at the wee boy came from nowhere. Like, it was just a bit shit. Like, you've not seen your daughter for 10 years or however. I just don't. It wasn't a believable reaction.
They met in the hospital. He was all over the daughter, and he couldn't look at the son. Sat there like cuddled up for. Like, nobody could, even the mom couldn't look at him at that point. And he then continued that through, obviously, when they were sitting down for the meal and whatever else.
I think it's just one of many things that they didn't really develop a lot of. Like, they gave you lots of little things, like, so the dad couldn't look at the wee boy, right? But they didn't give you any build-up to that or any aftermath to it. It was just like another little thing that happened. Same with the attempted suicide. That's
the sort of thing with films like this, where you would have, where your daughter has been missing for 7-8 years, whatever that was, you would have the backstory of the parents campaigning on the news, whatever else,
or something,
you get a bit of sympathy for them.
Well, Hunter, we'll let you off there because the gentleman that plays the actor that you're questioning is actually William Macy. So we'll say that you got the Macy and Defoe mixed up, not that you totally mixed it up completely.
I recognise, that's what it was. He's from the American version of Shameless, and you recognised his face.
That's right.
Poor Frank Gallagher was getting accused of being the Green Goblin.
He was also the Green Goblin. One of the messages we got on Instagram was saying very similar to what's been said here, that it basically it closed too early. The main plots just seemed to be over too quickly in the film, and it just sort of dragged on after that. I should have finished a bit earlier.
So jumping just
I mean, I'll let you speak because A, it was my choice, and B, I probably rambled on too long. about many of the points, but how would you feel, obviously, because Brie Larson was given the Oscar for that role, do you think she was deserving of the Academy Award?
It's hard to say because I have no idea who she was up against that year. So she never felt like the star of the show, as you've said before. It was all about the wee boy. And just on another point as well, like, see the wee boy going out into the world and all that, it just seemed to be like the flick of a switch that he wasn't adapting, and then he was adapting and he was fine. Like it was like just strange. But I have no idea who she was up against that year, so I think she was good. But I'll say aye, she deserved to get it. But I have no idea who she was up against.
Right.
So I'll give you right now who she was up against, just so we have it, okay? So Brie Larson won in 2015. She was up against Cate Blanchett in Carol, Jennifer Lawrence in Joy, Charlotte Rampling in 45 Years, and Saoirse Ronan in Brooklyn. I'm just going to go on a limb, guys, and say those four other movies, I've not seen any of them.
No.
Aye, they need to get added to the list. So I've not seen any of them. Like,
so yeah, I would have said that to be fair, I had this exact discussion with Laura over the weekend, and I would have said Jennifer Lawrence got the token vote for Joy. Sorry, aye.
Joy, you're right. Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence for Joy.
Aye, Jennifer Lawrence got a token vote for Joy, but she got given it the actual award a year too soon for Silver Linings Playbook.
Aye, so you mean that hint they didn't want to give her two because she'd already.
Aye, basically, they gave her the award too soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fair. Again, I mean, for me, the acting is incredible. I think Brie Larson as an actress is probably one of the most authentic actresses that you can get out there, and in this movie showcases what she can do as part of that. And then when you watch her from a movie like this to watching her in things like Captain Marvel, and you can see she's one of those few actors or actresses, when I watch her, I believe that she's the character. I don't believe she's Brie Larson. I believe she's the character.
I personally, I don't know what you guys thought. So, for folk watching, we've been doing this now for about a year. So there's loads of movies we've been doing this for, and we did Short Term 12 with Brie Larson. I thought she was. That was
my point, that she was in that, and I felt more in depth with her character in that because we got some backstory. Obviously, her dad was coming out of jail. I mean, we don't know what her dad done to her in that film, but that backstory that they gave us added more credence to her character.
Aye, it was just
whereas
a bit
all we know in this film was she was abducted at 17 and kept in that shed for 3 years before she got pregnant. That's all we basically knew about it.
And for anyone who's not watched Short Term 12 previously, please go watch it.
Apologies, your spoiler alert for...
Short Term 12 is an incredible movie, so definitely go and watch it. But Daniel, I believe you had more questions that came through on Instagram that would be a good time to throw that in just now.
We did indeed. I'm just getting a canny cider, so hold on.
Hashtag no ad.
I was going to say that similar to what Sean was saying, Errol, that I thought the star, like, it was only after I read it when Sean mentioned about how old Nick was like arrested, and that I was the same. That it was only when I actually read the plot after it that I was like, oh, did that even get mentioned? I thought they didn't even mention about going to jail, because that was one of the things I was like, what actually happened to him? And then as well,
yeah, I would agree. I don't think I registered what actually happened to him. I'd seen there was the news report on the news when they were watching it that he was arrested.
I didn't even see that.
Came up.
That was about it. Somebody mentioned
sentenced for, because I presume that he's carried out this campaign against young girls for so many years. But again, that's just a presumption.
Yeah, I've no idea.
It seems like this was a one-off because he only seemed to have her. Like it didn't seem like
So that's an interesting part, though. If we got the background story to that, though, because obviously having the room makes it sound premeditated, but then the fact that it has been one victim, does that mean that it wasn't premeditated and the room became an afterthought?
Like, I think he spent a lot of time. The way I took it was he spent a lot of time.
When you looked at that room, where that whole ceiling was soundproof, they soundproof 4x4 blocks, he was planning that for years, which makes me think there was a backstory to his predatory instincts.
Yeah, absolutely.
As Kyle mentioned, sorry, we put out for another couple of questions on Instagram. Probably the most interesting one was, how would we have escaped if it was us trying to get out of?
Okay, so let's take that one by one then. So let's start off with yourself, Daniel, as you gave the question. What would be your plan? How would you do it? Bear in mind you've got a 5-year-old, 6-year-old boy?
You've got a wee 5-year-old boy. No, I'd actually written this down in my notes from watching it, that there was a point where they tried to build a few bits of tension when he was coming in as to whether she was maybe going to try and escape or not. I feel like they should have lent more into that. But there was a point she was boiling water. I thought she was actually going to burn him, but it was to make him look like he was in a fever to try and get the guy to take him to the hospital. Right? So, but she was boiling the water for ages. So I was a massive pot of boiling water, so I would just wait for them to come in and lob fucking boiling water over them.
She did seem quite resourceful throughout the film in terms of being able to look after the kid and that, because obviously they had very little. So I was going to say that, like, it seemed that's the way it was going to me as well at that point, because it was kind of like, it was as if she was really clued up throughout the film in terms of how to look after him, with obviously like the bare minimum that he was providing them.
I definitely thought she would have been thinking about it for like 7 or 8 years and would have had a better plan than, I'm going to roll you up and that.
Yeah.
But my choice would have been a big pan of boiling water right over his face. He'd go to the shop, tie him up, make him open the door. That's it. I'm out.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say. Like, it seems that the actual plans that she came up with were a bit extravagant, because there's no guarantee that he was going to take the boy to the hospital when she made him appear ill. And then when he died, again, like she said,
don't look at him and all that.
I promise me, like as if as if there's any guarantee that he's not just going to dump him in the back garden and just set fire to the body. Like it was a bit extravagant, but I would exactly the same. The boiling water and all that, I would have just lodged the air him and then cracked his head with the pan and then just ran. Probably.
Because they made a point that she tried to hit him with the top of the toilet before, and he took it away, right? But then she had big giant pots and pans. So it didn't make any sense. Like, I would understand if he'd taken away anything that she could have used.
And she had knives and all that as well. Yeah.
She had knives in that.
I was thinking more. That's what I was going to say. That I was expecting there was going to be something to do with the kitchen, that she was just going to like run at him. But then I was thinking, like, obviously that was the way I was seeing it. I was thinking that she was going to have like a better plan than what it came up with, because, like you say, there were so many ways that he could have just like. I didn't expect him to just sort of be like, oh, he must. I'm not even going to look and see. I know she said don't look at him or whatever. But you think it's somebody that's kept them captive for that long wouldn't just take her word for it.
I know.
I agree with that. The fact that
spent with that and he didn't question it.
When the young boy was in the van, he's looking out and seen the world for the first time. They were the moments I was expecting old Nick to be looking down on him, like regardless if he had him in the van. And even when he escapes for that rug, which apparently 5 minutes before he was too tight, the first time she had him wrapped up in that rug to escape, when they were doing the simulation, he was too tight and he couldn't escape and he hated her. But now, 5 minutes later, in the film timeline, he was now escaping from that van and jumping up into the world as if to say, this is me escaped.
For me, I think there's a lot of planning that could have been showcased in it, because it was one door in, one door out, and a process of getting in and getting out. And the more I think about it, it's like, could you watch a pattern? Could you understand codes? Could you understand keys? Could you understand what time is old Nick vulnerable? I mean, the things that obviously it's hard, because she's got to also think about this child that she has in the cupboard at the time, every time that he walks in, and when can she actually make a difference to that? I do think the way that she done it was quite intuitive. It was quite clever. It relied a lot on a really naive young child to pull it off, which I think was quite crazy. But yeah, I mean, there's a leap of faith that he's actually going to accept the fact that he's dead. Like, like what?
There was a lot. Yeah. There was too many many variables for me. Like it just became a bit like something out of like a crime caper. Do you know how, like, when they need to break into the vault, there's like this step and this step and this step, and everything has to go to plan. Like, the fact that he was oh, he's definitely going to put you in the back of a pickup truck. I mean, how does she even know that he still drives a pickup truck 7 years later? Like, oh, you're definitely going to see these stops. Like, it was just daft.
Of course, I
got disengaged at that point. Like,
that they'd stopped at 3 stop signs. Whereas when you watch that, what would you call it? When he was picked up and put in the back of the van, when he actually got picked up for that boy walking the dog 5 minutes later, I felt like there was more than 3 stop signs in that length of time.
And he couldn't even see you for half the time. It didn't even make any sense. It was shite.
Yeah.
Will we do? Will we get those scores in?
I love that. It was shite. It was shite.
I know later, as I predicted, I've been out today, so it's an hour and a half re-marathon shite.
Right, okay, so let's then move into, so a part of the process that we do follow here is we give it a marking. Daniel, you are probably best to explain the marking system for everyone that's watching.
Yeah, so we just do a standard out of 5 stars, but you can do a quarter star at a time, just because we're going to have a lot of movies, so we're going to need to be able to pick them apart by small margins, so it can go up by a quarter of a star at a time.
Yeah, so and Daniel mentioned earlier as well that we have been doing this for the best part of a year and we have watched a lot of movies along the way. We will do a recap over this, which we'll probably post on our Twitter and Instagram. You can see the comments and links for them below. So keep posted for that. But let's start off with the person that chose the movie. First of all, Hunter, if you want to take it away and give us your marking out of 5.
Right. What I will say is, first of all, I am amazed that Brie Larson got an Oscar for the hour and a half's worth of work that she put in for this movie. I feel like any actress out there could have put in the same amount of work. I don't know if the emotion in the script maybe lent itself towards her, but I'm amazed that she got an Academy Award for an hour and a half, or 2 hours maybe. She got an Academy Award when she wasn't even the best actor/actress in the movie. Not shining away from the fact that the 25 minutes that she did deliver was amazing compared to obviously the films that we have seen her in. And the concept of the film, which drew me to it whilst looking for films on the platforms available during Oscar week, I felt were better than the films we have graded previously on the channel, so I will give it a 3.25 out of 5.
A 3.25 coming from Hunter. Okay, so let's move it back forward to our movie expert, Craig.
Hunter's kind of went through a lot of my thoughts there. Again, like, I thought the wee boy was really good in it. I think going into the film, I thought Brie Larson was going to be a lot more involved in it than what it was, just obviously because I'd heard of her, basically. She was, like we said before, I did like it in the other film that we watched, which I can't remember the name of it again, but
Short Term 12.
Yeah, that's the one. Is the
Stephen Tomorrow, I'm not remember the name of that film, but we go with it.
But yeah, I think when we're talking about it, it did seem as if when we're reviewing it, there is a lot of it was sort of saying how bits that weren't right about it, but I did enjoy it overall, and I think it was like we discussed before, how it was just a bit too not in depth for me, maybe an extra half hour or like you say, split into 2 films would be better, but as I say, I quite enjoyed it, so I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5 from the resident movie expert. Superb. Okay, moving on, we'll go straight to Daniel. Daniel, give us your interpretation of it, please.
I was fairly invested in it for the first half hour, and I was expecting to give this a much higher mark than I'm going to eventually give it. I feel like it was 2 halves of 2 semi-decent movies but put together, which took it away from me. I mean, I just wanted to bring it back a point we never said, by the way. How fucking somatic is it for that wee boy having to sit in that cupboard watching his mom shag that guy every week?
I know, like basically, it's like saying he ignored it for the first 4 years of his life, but the minute he turned 5, he could he was having sex with old Nick.
Oh, aye, that's it.
That was the thing as well. They touched on about how it was as if when we said about how you're putting a lot of pressure on the boy to make the plan work, that she'd sort of said, "Oh, but you're 5 now, so you know about this kind of stuff." It was like, so as soon as he turned 5, that he could do everything, but when he was 4 and 3...
As you're right, Bengal. 4, basically being the age 4 and 364 days, he didn't know the 100 miles, but the minute he turned 4 and 365, he knows everything enough to concoct this fun.
Aye, and these are one of the reasons I maybe scored it a bit lower, because it just sort of it took a lot of leaps very quickly. So I'm giving it 2.5. So it was an enjoyable experience. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't amazing. So 2.5.
Cool. So we're slowly coming down the ratings here at the moment. It's a 3.25 to a 3 to a 2.5. But let's take it over to Sean, and he's going to give us his.
I enjoyed it. As I said earlier on, I thought that they could have made more of the actual them being in the room. I think that that would have been a much more enjoyable film if it was, as I said, about 80% them in the room than the way they actually made it. I'm just going to give it a 3, just the same as Bunzy. As I said, I'd seen it a good few years ago. I think me and Laurie watched it maybe just after it first came out, and I did like it, but it's just, it all happens too quickly, and there's too many. The actual plans to get them out, I just think, just to rely on a 5-year-old child who has never seen outside this one room to count signs, to play dead in a carpet, it's a load of nonsense really. But I would watch it again. 3, I would just get a 3.
3, happy days. So a 3 coming in from Sean, so creeping back up in the ratings as well. Okay, so for me personally, I'm going to say that I actually really enjoyed it. I think the acting's fantastic in it, and I do think for movies, and certainly for the amount of movies that we have watched over the year, this is probably one of the better acted movies that we've had. One that was a lot more invested in, and for that reason, I'm going to score it up at a 3.5. So the highest score that we're going to give it from us all here. Again, just based on the acting quality that happened. The storyline for me was good. There is obviously holes, and we've taken it apart here, and what could have been more. But I do think it's quite telling the fact that we wanted more from it as well. We obviously were into it a little bit. So
I would say that is a purpose as well, is to take a film and tear it apart as well. That's what we're out here doing.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely agree with that. But again, it's not down in the lower ranks of other movies that we have discussed. It's definitely been one of the better ones.
Agree with
that. So yeah, a 3.5 from me. So just to recap on the scores from there, Scott Hunter scored it at a 3.25. Craig Burns in at a 3. Daniel Scott in at a 2.5, an incredibly low score. And Sean in with a 3 and my 3.5. Okay. So if someone wants to do the quick maths from there, we can give that an average score and let us know what we have ranked it at.
I think it's 2 point something, not quite 3.
If only we had an accountant within the team that can do this off the top of his head.
Should be born with a calculator at his desk.
That's fine.
But whilst we work out again what the average score this is going to be, I think this is a really good time, a really good opportunity for us to take a 2-minute comfort break. When we come back from our comfort break, we will be reviewing the second movie, which was Fear and Loathing. So we will be right back in the next 2 minutes. Okie dokie, we are back now. Thank you very much for waiting for us. If anyone has got any thoughts about Room, about what we've said or what you would like to add, please pop it down into the comment section or into the live chat. We'd really appreciate that. But what we're going to do now is we're swiftly going to move on to the next movie, which was Fear and Loathing, starring Johnny Depp. So again, we're going to start in the same order, the same process, and we're going to start off with Hunter, who selected these movies, and he can take us away with his review on Fear and Loathing.
Right, as I said to the viewers and the boys last week, I was a massive fan of not only the film but the book. As a youngster, I was totally invested in the Hunter S. Thompson, the gonzo journalism, the fake alias, what he done. I do believe that obviously a lot of what he's done of what has been adapted in this film was make-believe, but I also do believe, going by a few of the adaptations after that, a lot of it was true to a sense as well. And the fact that obviously this was the big reveal that I alluded to in the group chat on Friday night was that when he died not so long ago, Hunter S. Thompson, that Johnny Depp was the one who scattered his ashes as he died, which I felt was the family's belief as to how Hunter S. Thompson had lived his life, that compared to how Johnny Depp had portrayed that role, that regardless of where this film was let down at times, the adaptation between truth to reality I felt was kept real between Johnny Depp's role in the movie.
He fired him out of cannon. He fired these ashes out of cannon, did he know? Or something mental.
Yeah.
I have no idea of this.
I'm pretty sure that because him and Johnny Depp became pals when he was researching for this, and that was in his will that he wanted to be fired out of cannon or some shit. So I'm pretty sure Johnny Depp.
After seeing the film, it was like basically, like as I kind of said in the group chat on the Friday, that if the audio book was done by anyone else other than Johnny Depp, I wouldn't listen to it, because kind of similar situation to maybe Hunter S. Thompson, maybe watching the film, that he wouldn't want anyone else firing his ashes out of cannon unless it was Johnny Depp.
Interesting.
That's a point, aye.
That actually sounds like it would fit in the film, like a scene like that.
Yeah. To be fair, if we added that scene into the film, it'd probably make it a watchable movie. For me, this.
Oh my!
I'm going to jump right in and tear this straight apart. This is probably the worst movie I've ever watched, potentially ever.
Oh, it's not that bad, is it?
I'm going to back that up. I absolutely hated my life for 2 hours of this.
But I was watching this, I thought I must be missing something, because I was like.
So, missing something is something
enjoying this, and I'm completely missing the point.
Missing something is something that I kept commenting and thinking about this, like, what am I missing from this movie? Because it made zero sense, and I get to a point it's probably not supposed to make sense, and it's maybe the angle that they are moving down that it doesn't actually make sense. But I felt tired watching it because it's jumping around loads of different bits and bobs. They've got crazily weird, stupid accents and body language, and then characters were coming into it with no rhyme or reason, and then going out of it, and then I still don't fully understand what Tobey Maguire's character was all about.
How ridiculous did he look, by the way?
And that's one of my favourite bits.
When you read the book, that Tobey Maguire's character is a bit part character. You need to read the book gives you the full context, and that whole maybe the first hour and a half when they're on the route to Las Vegas until Del Toro leaves and comes back again is basically just all about them collecting these drugs. And there's basically when you read the book, there's this big list of all these drugs that collected when they come for it, and that's how you buy into it when you read the book and you feel invested in it.
So that's
for me personally.
As bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. I agree with what you were saying there, Kyle. Because it had been so long since I'd first seen it, I felt like the second half of the film totally in my mind, that first half of the film, where it was the build-up, where they got the dogs, they went and they had that first tear up in Las Vegas, in my mind, because it had been 15, 16 years since I'd seen it, that's all the film was. But it did go dramatically downhill after that.
See, much like Hunter, right, I watched this film when I was maybe 15 or 16 years old, right? And see, at the time, it was cool to like this. You were sort of supposed to like it. And I just remember, I think I've convinced myself for years that I like this, and I don't. It's absolutely shite. See the first maybe 40 minutes is alright as an experience of just like seeing poker and drugs and like seeing the experiences, and it is quite interesting. And you're getting to see the excess of it all. But I remember when I was a teenager talking to my pals, like, oh, it's actually about the excess of the American dream, and it's just a commentary on like this was when I was a wanker, when I was a wee kid. Like that's what I used to. I think this movie's been given a lot higher regard than it's actually due. It's actually basically just a really long, the same joke over and over for 90 odd minutes. Like
there's no like storyline with it. I was kind of like watching it thinking like it's pointless. Like the other ones that we've watched that are involved in drugs and alcohol or whatever, there was a point to everything. Like it was linked all together. There was like a plot behind it. This was just kind of a mismatch of just you're watching it and then there was
I think maybe to what we watched before, there maybe was at the time a link back to the American Dream around about the time of the Vietnam War, but by the time this film came out and was actually shot and was broadcast to the millions that have seen it since the time it was actually produced, that message was lost.
Aye, that's what I'm saying. I remember at the time when I was young thinking there was like a deeper message to it about excess and like overindulgence and all this sort of stuff, but I just wasn't getting any of that. I think I just convinced myself of this when I was younger. Like I don't actually think the movie's very profound or has much to say. I think it's just, and the thing is as well, see, for the first maybe half an hour to 40 minutes, up until when he takes the ether, right? You're sort of getting to see the effect of all the different types of drugs, right? How differently they affect them. So that's quite interesting. You get some funny moments, but see after he tries to escape and then the cop catches him and he comes back. See at that point, I just lose interest completely. It's just the same shit over and over and over again. And he's then taking the adrenaline and he's taking all these different weird drugs, but it's just doing the same shit to him. Like you just, it's just
in my mind, all that film was that first build up and the drive through backcountry, and because in the book, basically there's a few chapters where they build up that drug collection they take with them, and it all dissipates where Benicio del Toro's character uses the cocaine. That happens in the book, so that is like a true adaptation from book to movie, and because I built the full film up in my mind up to that point where all the dogs they got, all the dogs they took, that I believe in my mind, I thought that was the peak of the film, which is probably where the peak of my interest was in the book. But now watching it again after 10, 15 years, that once that point happened, as told with the book at the time, and probably with this film, that the quality of the film died at that point. It was like, where do we go from here?
It just became the same thing over and over again. It felt like eating like a really sweet dessert, but then that's all you can eat for the rest of the next 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, just felt like it was fine at first, but then it's just the same. You're just getting fed the same shite over and over again.
See, for me, I absolutely I hate trippy films. It took me years to watch even just Trainspotting because I just thought it was just all about the effects of drugs, and like I had to turn this off after like 45 minutes because I just couldn't watch it. It was literally for me.
But you see, on that subject, I would say that you see basically the first hour and a half of this film when they're meant to be out their tits, they do that well. Like you're in that cinema or that circus casino, you feel out your tits because you're engulfed in the madness that they are apparently going through at that point.
Yeah, so Sean, carry on with what you were saying, mate.
As I say, like, I hate caring something that like one of my pals loves so much, and has obviously got us to watch it and that, but like it's genuinely something like that. I would rather endure like fucking torture than watch that again. It was so hard to I literally had to turn it off, and I text Kyle because I thought Kyle had already seen it, and I said I've just had to turn that off. Like I was trying so hard.
I genuinely wish you text me saying I've had to turn it off because I know we were in the group chat on Friday. You're like, I've got a few words to say.
As I said, it's just totally no for me. It's something that I think that if you, I don't know, say you're high on something yourself and you're watching it, something you could probably get right into. But it was a hard like for me personally, it was a hard watch. Like it was mere just getting through it for this more than anything. And I wouldn't have given that film 5 minutes if I was just watching that just on my own without any movie chat or movie club or that. I just I'm
fair
glad
play,
it's done.
fair enough. Burnsy, go for it. What's your thoughts?
This is the review I want.
I think I was saying to you before, I was trying to think of stuff, anything positive to say about it, and there was literally none I could come up with. It just the full storyline just didn't grab me at all. They were saying about how they were going to, who was a journalist that was going to a biking event or something, or I can't remember what it was, and that just didn't even happen. It was kind of like a couple of minutes, and it was like, right, we're back to taking books again.
The book's the same. That's this is the backstory. The main story just about the amount of drugs they consume in this 48 hours.
Aye, it was just stupid. No, it just didn't. I stuck with it for the full 2 hours, but I wish I never, and I wish I did what Sean did and turned it off, to be honest.
Oh, no, I actually went back to it. I did go back to it and watch the rest of it. I didn't. I wanted to just. No.
Was that an option? Shit. Should have took that.
I started watching it. It was 4 days ago, and then Kyle texted me saying, "You better watch it." Oh, it's obviously I would, but I was putting it off, and I was I need to just watch it. And it was hard, but I did watch all of it. I don't know how much
I do think Hunter's made a lot of points, obviously, about the book, right? And it probably should have a disclaimer at the start saying, "Please read the book before watching this," because
it's not even just that. It's for all it the film turns into a bag of shite in the second half. Nothing should take away from the roles that Depp and Del Toro actually deliver. I thought they were both of them actually outstanding of what they've done.
I was going to add that as well.
That's probably the one good thing that I could say about it is actually the only thing that, and I don't know if it was just me, but I know that Johnny Depp has the voiceover and all that, but when he actually speaks, when his character speaks, it's like it's dubbed in. It didn't look like he was actually talking. I don't know if it's meant to be like that, but it was.
It's meant to be like that. Aye.
When I mentioned that in the group chat the other night, that I couldn't have that book as an audio book unless it was Johnny Depp / Royal Duke.
And
delivering the audio book because
obviously he's taken the Jack Sparrow character, the movements and all that. I mean, that was what I was
going to say. See Johnny Depp now, he's turned into a caricature of himself where he plays that, he does all that weird movement and all this sort of stuff in every single film now. But this and then maybe Edward Scissorhands was about the first time he started doing that weird, quirky, funny walk shit that he does in every single fucking film since. So I think maybe the fact that we've seen Johnny Depp do that exact same weird character a million times since, going back to watch that again now, you forget that it was kind of unique at the time.
It totally dilutes the effect that it done.
Aye.
It also made I watched. I was quite intrigued that Christina Ricci was in it as well. I didn't expect that, but it was a bit weird for me because I'd watched Casper the day before. So to go from Casper to watching her in Fear and Loathing was a weird experience. But just for me to, before we move on to scoring
on that as well, we're talking about Johnny Depp, but on the diet pint subject, Benicio del Toro is suffering. I thought he was absolutely outstanding in this film for what he done as the sub actor.
I couldn't
and then
actually
at the
work
end,
out
he's
what
the
that
plane,
character was.
The Hunter S. Thompson quote where the too late to die, too young to live is up there. Having read the book and been invested in it as a youngster is one of my favourite quotes of all time.
That makes sense. Just on Del Toro's character, I mean, I'm still not convinced he was a lawyer. He's
not. He's not. The fact he keeps saying, "As your attorney, I advise you go there." When you read the book, he's not his actual lawyer. He's just a legal advisor.
He's just a guy.
Well, I think we've covered off quite well our thoughts and opinions on this movie. So I do think we'll start off with the selector of this week to give us his score out of 5, and I'm expecting some contrasting numbers here. Hunter, take us away with your score.
There are going to be low numbers. The worst it was to two reviewers who may not know me from a previous life that I had portrayed this movie a lot higher than what I'm going to score it based on, because I've not seen it for years, as I said, and I was vested in the film and Hunter S. Thompson and the book as a youngster. But it is with regret that if it wasn't for Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro, that this would be getting a much lower score. So I'm going to be giving this a 2 out of 5, which is the lowest I've scored anything on the channel so far.
So a 2 from Hunter, and we'll move on to Mr. Burnsy. You give us your score next, please, mate.
I think the first half hour of the film was quite decent, I thought, but like Daniel had touched on earlier, is like it didn't progress from there. It just kind of stuck in the same loop. There was like some funny parts to it, but apart from the acting was decent, or the acting was good, as like you say, but the storyline and plot itself, and it just didn't grab me at all. I was struggling to stay with it, somewhat like what Sean was. I just didn't enjoy it at all. So I'm going to give it 1 out of 5.
1 from Burnsy. Okay, Daniel, you're up next. You've already declared this as being shite, quote unquote.
Aye, I mean, it's shit. I'm disappointed that it's shite, because like I'm similar to Hunter, that I'd convinced myself for years that I liked this, and I've not watched it for at least 10 years. And I'm quite disappointed in my young self for thinking this was something special, because I really didn't enjoy it. It's been said already, but I quite like the first half hour of 45 minutes, and then it just zags on after that for me. And they just.
I mean, it is all about that build up and the score on the dogs and that first night in Vegas, and after that it just dissipates into shiteness there.
And that's it. It's just that they're doing the second half of the movie is the same as the first half of the movie, but not quite as interesting. So I'm giving it 1.25.
1.25. Awesome. Sean,
yes.
Just took you 2 seconds to watch and a side text message to me with your disgust. So please take it away and let us know what you're scoring this out of 5.
I was very vocal about Zulu Dawn and Buster Scruggs. The ones that you picked, Kyle, like the shark stuff, I didn't even count that as like a movie thing. That was always a joke week, and I still maintain that like I would never ever watch Zulu Dawn ever again. I would never watch Buster Scruggs ever again, and I would definitely never watch this ever again. And it is officially now the worst film I've ever seen in my life. And I'm presuming that you can't score it a 0. I'm going to give it a 0.25. And the only reason that I'm not scoring it a 0 is because I want to keep that for something worse. And the fact that
there could be any worse than it.
There might be something worse. You never know.
Surely there could be something.
No, I'd watch Dark Crimes every day for a week if it meant I'd never be here for again.
No chance. I'm not having that. Dark Crimes was the worst ever.
Well, Sean, I'm going to
how much I hate this film.
I'm going to carry on from what you're saying there, and with the same respect, I'm going to say that I would watch Dark Crimes, Buster Scruggs, Zulu Dawn all back to back before I'd watch this again. And I'd watch
Dark Crimes is one of my movies, and I would never subject that on anyone.
Mega Shark vs Colossus, I'd watch forwards and backwards there at the top of this as well. I mean, I think Sean summed it up fantastically. For me, I'm very similar. Not for me at all. There was nothing really redeeming about it. I wasn't even like over and enamoured by the acting in it. I thought, but this what Daniel said earlier about the hindsight of Johnny Depp, it just seemed like a shit version of what he's done later. Del Toro, I mean, parts of it I was like, alright, but I couldn't really understand what he was saying for most of it. It was loads of thrashy, jumping about, erratic movements, and it was not.
I think that was even before he was in Academy nomination. I think he'd done a few roles since before he was even cast, and for what he's done since.
Well, again, for me,
I'm Johnny Depp at that point. That was part of the time when he was in the Primrose Hill gang, when he was going out with Kate Moss and hanging about with Liam and Noel Gallagher, that he just turned up on this film by chance.
Well, you're not going to have any redeeming factors here. I'm going to score it the same as Sean in a 0.5. To recap the scores,
0.25 I was counting.
Oh well, Sean was 0.2.
I'll mark up to 0.5.
Jesus.
For no particular reason other than the fact that it wasn't over 2 hours long.
And we might get there might be worse coming. I think there's definitely worse coming.
It'll be hard done by to get worse.
Was over 2 hours long by 1 minute and 59 seconds.
Is it? Right, okay, I'm going to get a 0.
I'll be honest. I thought Knives Out was worse than this. I definitely think there's been worse.
Really?
Oh, Knives Out was Shawshank compared to this.
So Zulu Dawn is the benchmark which we need to assess bad movies on. It was better than that.
Nope.
No, it's not.
You're outnumbered on that one.
Oh no, sorry, I was slightly better.
Just right. Basically 2 different shades of shite is what they are. That's all it is.
Daniel, mark us up anyway. So, guys, listen up. Mark us up the score. So, a 2, a 1, a 1.25, a 0.
I'll do it, lad.
A 0.25 and a 0.5 coming in for Fear and Loathing.
All I would say is the poster is up there for top posters.
It's a cracking poster.
And I watched the poster for 2 hours.
Exactly.
Okay, so against an average score of a 1.
So, guys, there you have it for the movies for this week. Was Room marked in at a 3.05 and Fear and Loathing in at a very generous 1. So that'll be updated in a leaderboard that we will have in the next few weeks once we have some more movies under our belt. But what we're going to do is move on to next week's choices, which were chosen by myself. So for you guys watching and you guys in the chat, you will see the movies.
Kyle thinks he's the manager of Celtic.
Okay, is that the sound come back there now? So I've rabbled on there and there's been no sound coming through. So fantastic, great production value. So just to recap on there, what I'd stated at the start, for the movies for next week that were selected by myself, is one unseen movie, which is JFK, starring Kevin Costner, which is available on Amazon Prime. JFK is a movie that has always intrigued me. We've been discussing the book by Stephen King, which themes around JFK's assassination, in the group chat recently. Actually, it was brought up in conversation, so had me googling a little bit about JFK, trying to find out a little bit more. I've never seen this movie. I've heard really good things about it, and hopefully this is something that we will like. I'm going to be sure as shit say it's going to be scored higher than Fear and Loathing. And for my scene movie, the scene movie that I've picked is an IMDb top 100 movie starring Mads Mikkelsen. This is a Swedish subtitled movie called The Hunt. Now, again, like I said earlier on, and just to repeat this for you guys that have not heard because I stupidly never added my mic in, this is a movie that I would definitely say needs to pay a lot of attention to. A lot of little bits of information that will make it really interesting. And the fact that it is subtitled definitely is a put your phone away, pay attention, read what's going on in the movie. And the acting in this one, for me, is incredible. I've only seen it once before, but it's always stuck with me as up there as probably my favourite foreign movie. Someone's just popped into the chat there saying that The Hunt is great and it's a very dark subject matter, which I think sums it up.
Nice to have some fun.
Sums it up really, really well. So thanks for that comment.
I'm looking forward to this one because we did Parasite, obviously, which was subtitled. I thought the group might struggle with it, but that went down very well. So yeah. I'm hoping. As I said,
right before Parasite, we need to dangle in as either a watch along or we review again and critique it as not seen it.
Yeah,
I think there's definitely a few we'll come back to, but I'm looking forward to this week's, Kyle.
Awesome, guys. So The Hunt and JFK both available on Amazon Prime. So feel free. We will be back next Monday with another episode of Morons Reviewing Movies. Today's movies, Room and Fear and Loathing, have been done and placed into the bank. Next week, The Hunt and JFK. So anyone that is watching or has watched this in hindsight, please feel free to watch your movies as well and send us your comments. We will be putting comments and posts on Instagram, and we'd love to hear what you guys think about the movies. And if you have any questions at all, or even better, if you have any movie suggestions so that we don't have to watch Fear and Loathing shite again, please send them in to us and we will take them under consideration. But thanks very much for keeping us. Somebody just got booted out of the chat. Thank you very much for staying with us, and we will see you next week. Okay, so guys, I'm just going to stop the recording there. What I'm going to do is finish off the stream, okay? If you bear with me for 1 minute. What we're going to do is send the stream across to someone else. Guys, please feel free to stay in the stream that we're going to send across to. We're going to raid a colleague of Daniel's who has been giving us some support at the channel recently. So we're going to send you viewers over there. Please pop in, give him a follow and say hello from us. 1 second guys, bear with me.